I think my house was owned by a serial killer. This year started off looking exciting, but I'm not so sure anymore. I finally succeeded in the millennial dream and bought a house this year. It's not much, but it's mine. I bought it back in the spring from this old woman and everything seemed fine. It's a 3-bedroom ranch with a full basement and 2-car garage. I've been looking forward to taking this step for a long time and decided to take the jump right before the interest rates started to get out of control. Of course, the first thing I did after buying the place was to start making a list of all the things I wanted to change to really make it feel like it's my home. At first, everything seemed great as I tackled the first tasks of some fresh paint and replaced some old light fixtures with modern ones. I'm pretty handy, so I've been doing all the work myself. I had to climb into the attic in my order to run some electrical wire, and as I shifted away some insulation, I found something strange. It was an old Polaroid photo that was on the ceiling drywall, but the picture was so faded I couldn't tell what I was supposed to be a picture of. I picked it up and on the back were 3 dates. 2 19s, 70, 3 won, 70 and 9 Cs, 70 in blue, then black, and finally red 18. I thought it was odd, but was so focused on what I was working on that I discarded the picture and kept working. Fast forward to last weekend, and just a warning, this still gives me shivers down my spine when I think about it. I had noticed some water leaks coming from behind this old workbench in the basement and needed to dismantle it in order to access the wall behind and get it repaired before it became an expensive problem in the future. There, I uncovered what I now am struggling to rationalize as anything other than evidence of something deeply sinister. It looked like a piece of antler at first, but then I realized it was a handle to a knife but without the blade. It had been wedged underneath the workbench wrapped in a cloth. As I turned it over in my hand, I found deep grooves in the surface, each about a finger apart running the entire length. A total of 10 grooves, and as I looked closer at the end, there looked to be etchings I couldn't make out in the dim basement light. The only number I could make out was each line ended with 8 and 1 more digit. I started pulling apart the workbench more carefully, fearing what I might find. As I kept looking, I found 3 more similar handles, each with the same etchings. I took the handles upstairs where there is more light, and I will never forget this for the rest of my life. As I looked closer in clear light, it was clear each etch was a date. 5/12/83, 7/31, 84, and so on. I started checking the other handles when I saw it. I had a flash of memory of that Polaroid and my blood ran cold. 9/10/70 was the first etch on the second handle. In total, I had 4 handles with dates ranging from 1960 to 1999. I haven't told anyone until now about what I've found so far, and at this point I'm scared of what I might find if I keep doing renovations around the house. I looked up the old owner and found an obituary of her husband in 2007. I did go back to the attic, but so far haven't found another Polaroid. If I'm right, that means there's probably another handle with 6 or 7 notches attached to a blade somewhere in my house. A part of me wants to go to the cops, but I don't know what they would even do since right now, I just have these handles and that Polaroid I found has long since been thrown away. The idea that my house could get swamped by police and the media is really unsettling. But if what I'm able to help provide closure for someone out there, I need to do that, right? I took a truth serum with my friends and now one of them is going to kill me. I have a guys' night with my 2 best friends, Paul and Serge, that's been running since we were in our 20s. Over the years, we've traded the pee-bra for nice wine and the cheap cigarettes for cigars. But the idea is basically the same. We get drunk and talk shit until we get tired and then put on a movie or play video games. Then Paul and I go back to our families, and Serge goes back to his single life. We'd been drinking for maybe an hour when I started to feel funny. Not drunk, but actually kind of hyper, like I had a million thoughts racing through my head that I needed to tell someone. "It's hitting you," said Paul. "I must be losing my tolerance," I said. "I barely drank these days. Too busy with 2 kids at home and my wife finishing nursing school." Paul smirked a little. "Not the alcohol," he said. "The other thing, the thing I added to the decanter, in vino veritas." "What the hell are you talking about?" Sergey asked, starting to look edgy. Paul held up a small vial. "Well, I can't pronounce the actual name of the thing, but it's basically truth serum. Got it from one of the lab techs in my office. Crazy stuff. It actually works. Also kind of makes you feel like you're on speed, which is kind of a bonus." "This is bullshit," I said, getting up from the couch. "I'm out of here." Sergey watched Paul with angry eyes, trying not to say anything. In all our years of friendship, we'd only had a handful of deeper talks. "Come on," said Paul, blocking the door. What's the problem with a little truth if you've got nothing to hide? You want the truth, dude? I asked. How about I'm pretty fucking upset that someone I consider to be a friend decided to drug me against my will. Now get out of the way. I'm gonna go sleep this thing off. Not until you tell me if you're sleeping with Jess, he said, suddenly much more serious. I rolled my eyes. I realized it was taking all my willpower not to launch into a long tirade. I was holding in my words like they were piss after a long car ride. They needed to come out. Just answer me, man, he said, and I could tell he was close to either throwing a punch or breaking down in tears. I'd seen him do both plenty of times over the years. I just want to know if it's true. I remember you telling me all the time how hot she was back when we first started dating. I tried to bite my tongue. I tasted blood, but it did no good. I had to answer him regardless of the consequences. Jess is a train wreck, I told him. She totally ignores your kids and she treats you like an Aidna. I guarantee you she's cheating with someone, but it's definitely not me. For a second, everyone was quiet. Then Paul came in for an awkward hug. I'm sorry, said Paul after a few seconds. I should have known you would never. Shit. I'm sorry. You guys want to dust off the Genesis, maybe go a little retro. I'm really sorry. He started reaching in the cabinet under the TV to look for some of the older consoles. I'm a serial killer, said Serge all of a sudden. It's the first time I've said that out loud. I guess I'm not exactly sure what I am. I don't have any kind of particular method. I've been doing it since I was in high school. I just look for opportunities, like my first guy I did. He was just standing on a vista, looking out over the mountains, and I just pushed him off. And I felt like kind of calm release in me for a few minutes after I did it, a kind of peace I'd never felt before. Paul and I stared at him, trying to register if what he was saying was real. You're joking, I said. Tell us you're joking. When I joined the army, I thought maybe I could kind of channel it, kill a few bad guys and feel good about myself. And what happened? 2 years of sweating my ass off in the desert. Not in Iraq, not in Afghanistan, in fucking New Mexico. Not a single whiff of combat. I killed a hitchhiker and 2 cadets over the course of my time there. As he spoke, he pulled out a hunting knife. I remembered mocking him when he bought it, calling him a mall ninja. Now, I wondered how many people he'd killed with it. My heart was thudding in my ears. I looked around the room for any kind of weapon, but all I saw were Xbox controllers and wine glasses. Now it's starting to get worse, he said, his eyes cold, the knife shaking in his hands. It's like I can't be alone with anyone without thinking about how easy it would be to choke the life out of them. I leave these bars with women, and I wonder if anyone would be able to remember my face if the cops came around asking questions. I'm scared, said Paul. I'm really, really fucking scared right now. You should be, said Serge, trying not to meet his eyes. I wish you hadn't given me that drug, Paul. I honestly don't know what to do. I feel like my life is pretty much over now. I don't like killing people I know. It's the easiest way to get caught. And you guys are my best friends, the only people I care about in the whole world. I'm terrible at keeping secrets, said Paul, unable to contain himself. I'll call the police as soon as I leave this room. You know how I am. I know, said Serge. And then suddenly, Paul picked up his wine glass and tried to smash it against Serge's head. He missed completely, tumbling over the couch. I almost wanted to laugh, but then I looked down and saw the knife sticking out the side of Paul's head. Serge had stuck him right in the temple. Sergei removed the knife in one swift motion, even as Paul's body continued to twitch involuntarily on the floor. Sergei was crying now as he wiped the blood from the knife with his shirt. Look what you made me do, he said, looking down at Paul. Idiot. I should have known he'd try something like this. Then he looked over at me, tears streaking down his face. Now what? He asked. I can't die, I said. Think of my girls. I know, he said. I know. But I have to kill you. I have to. He took a step toward me, and as I did, I looked down and saw this last little glimmer of life in Paul's eyes. As Sergei tried to step over him to get to me, Paul grabbed his foot and Sarge tripped. Run, Paul mouthed. And I did. As I tore out the front door and into the dark street, I heard Serge screaming behind me. I'm gonna kill you! I'm gonna kill you! I'm gonna kill you! It's been about a week since everything went down, and I just got back from Paul's funeral. The whole time, I was looking over my shoulder, waiting for Serge to show up. Maybe he was there and I just didn't see him. At night, I checked the locks a dozen times and watched the feeds from my new security cameras on my phone. So far, so good. Based on what Serge told us that night, he's not prone to taking crazy risks. He called himself opportunistic, but maybe that's what scares me the most, because when he yelled out that he was going to kill me, he was still on the serum. He was telling the truth. And I know someday I'll be standing on the curb waiting for a bus or an Uber, and I'll suddenly feel a pair of hands behind me pushing me forward to my doom. When I get these dark thoughts at night, I sit up in bed, sweating and holding my knees, and my wife tries to hold me and tell me it'll be okay. She brushes her hands softly against my hair and says, "They'll catch him, baby. You're going to be here for a long, long time with me. We've got high school graduations to attend and weddings to pay for and grandchildren to meet. You're not going anywhere. You're not going to die." And I know that she is lying.